Start writing it.
How many chapters
Start
are
writing
there?
your book.
I used to have a book, but someone took it.
Oh, you gave it. What's that?
I think there's 23, how many's in there? 22?
The question in the back was, when did you actually start writing the book?
On paper? I think 4 years ago. And for about 2 years, I was one of those people that was writing a book that you make fun of. Because I'm like, yeah, I'm writing a book. And they go, oh, you're writing a book? That's great. How many pages you got? 3. So the first 2 years, I got about 10 pages done. And then, I don't know, I started talking about it, people got excited about it, and the momentum just started in the last 2 years. I've been doing real, honest writing work on it. I see that hand.
Will there be a sequel?
Not soon. Sometimes it was a joy to write, and sometimes it was like smashing into a wall.
So
Yes, ma'am.
So who did you go to publish your book?
Amazon has this branch called CreateSpace, and what you do is, and you can always give them more money, but they offer all sorts of options. But if you want to, you can essentially do it for free. I just paid Rafi for the cover. And you put it together, and you have to figure out their specifications, and of course you have to write it. But once you've done that, their little program will take you through and point out obvious errors, and then you have a book, and however many you want to pay for, that's however many you get. So on the front page it'll say Truth or Counseling Publishing, that's me, and with the ISBN number and all that stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Will this be in local bookstores, or how will you be selling it? Fireside Books in Chagrin Falls will probably take 5 copies and see what happens. It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon Kindle. It's available for sale on my website, www.truthercounseling.com. Which is fun, because when I came up with that website name, I just thought it was kind of cool, Truth or Consequences, Truth or Counseling. But now when you go there's me saying, hey, I do counseling, and then there's a book on truth. So it really is Truth or Counseling now. And so Amazon has regular books, and I have signed books through my website. Which of course doubles the value. Yeah.
Does the book tell you how to find the truth?
That's a complex question.
Could you repeat the question?
The question was, does the book tell you how to find the truth? It's probably a qualified maybe on that one. The main emphasis is for strategies on knowing if something is a lie. How can you what's some ways to know that this is probably false or probably true? What's some ways of knowing these things? And I go through some practical examples of how I use the ideas to pick out the truth from the fiction. And unfortunately, a lot of things are a big mixture of truth and falsity. It's kind of like my work. People come in, they tell me stuff. Some of it's true, some of it's false. How do you pick through that stuff, figure it out? At the end, I briefly toyed with the second book, but I'm like, no, this is too hard. At the end, there's 3 books on counseling. It's kind of shoehorned in because I do counseling, I'm a counselor, so I figured, hey, I should have something on counseling in there. I'm kind of talking about in individual and marriage counseling, even if you're not in that, what are some ways to know the truth of what's going on in your marriage and within yourself? Why are you depressed? Why do you feel crazy all day?
Is anyone in this room in your book?
Where did you say, Paul?
There's a lot of stories in our trying to think. The one guy who said he was coming from out of, he's not here. The one guy who said he's coming not here, he's in the book. Boy, that's embarrassing.
Are they in the book?
They want to sell me business loans.
Guess you can always read to find out.
Yeah, you could. There's several who are in the acknowledgments. Just trying to think of any of the stories involve people here. And not off the top of my head, no, don't think so. Bob, yeah, it's not actually you, Bob. It's I actually changed the name of 90% of the people there. So some of the names are the same as people in here, but it's not those actual people. Bob, yes.
You make an interesting comment about argumentation versus quarreling. And I wonder, why do we see so much more quarreling these days and not so much argumentation?
I think we see so much more quarreling because argumentation would involve vulnerability. If you were actually willing to say, oh yeah, that's a better idea than the one I have, that would be admitting that you weren't wonderful, perfect. And quarreling is essentially saying, no, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm just going to rail at you until you figure it out. Yeah, like that. Good question. Someone's reading this already. All right, Gary.
So how deep is the problem?
How deep is the problem of lies? What unit of measurement do you want to use?
Yeah, 110.
Let's go with 9. Actually, when I was in college, there was a guy named Rick Furby. And the other people on the floor had come up, they put a lot of thought into this. They decided that Furby was a unit of measurement of irritation. So like nuclear war was a mega Furby. I think it's getting worse. Just speaking from, an American point of view, I'm not speaking of the rest of the world, but just looking at America, the stuff you see on TV, and I have a chapter where I talk about when I was a kid, at least the people that were in charge at least pretended that they cared about the truth. You could sort of rely on them to tell you something that was reasonable. The cartoon guy would tell you to go to church. But now the people that are responsible adults are the worst purveyors of lies.
Ron, I just wondered, just a thought, whether while you were writing the book, was there a special aha moment, a special memory or thought that just popped into your mind that you can think of that was, that was really a highlight, kind of, a special thought that came to you?
One of the things that was surprising is when I started the book, my initial plan was to make it kind of a down the center kind of a book to be accessible by everyone, right, left, Christian, non-Christian, other, and to just kind of try and be as objective as possible and talk about logic a lot. And then one day, I was doing my own business, and I started talking about abortion, which is a pretty charged topic, and it just flew out. And my viewpoint is not a down the center one on abortion, and I'm just like, wow, it just it's the same length as the rest of the chapters, but it just. It's not like someone else was writing it, but it just came out so fast. It was, where did all that come from? And then the idea behind it is that, in the abortion argument, you find some of the major elements of how people lie. Here's the major lie groups, essentially. I don't know if that was what you're looking for, but that was a memorable part of the book. Ooh, follow-up questions. This is tough.
How did you know when you're coming to the end, to the conclusion of the book, and that you were happy with it?
I was getting tired. I was one of them. At the very beginning, I figured out my table of contents. So that really helped guide me as to when I was done. when all the chapters were filled in, then I knew I was getting really close. There was still a lot of editing and re-editing and rewriting, because some of the stuff, I kind of did it a chapter at a time. I do a chapter and then a chapter, and then I would go back and then rewrite the chapters. And sometimes I'd be rewriting chapters I'd written 2 years earlier. But basically, having filled up the table of contents is when I knew I was close.
Did you change your mind during the writing of the book?
No, not really. I mean, I'm a different person than I was 4 years ago. But I don't think there was any major things where I said, oh, what the heck was I talking about?
What were the easiest and hardest parts of the whole getting a book together and out process?
The easiest were chapters I had already written in my head 5 years ago. The hardest were ones that needed to round out the discussion of how do you find truth in culture, but I hadn't really studied that much or knew a ton about. I knew a little bit about, but I actually had to, go out and do some research, and that was one of the hardest parts. Some of the technical parts were the hardest. Figuring out how to get the endnotes. There's 150 endnotes, and I had to redo those 2 or 3 times. If I were going to do it again, I would take a week and just study verb tenses and singular plural agreement, where quotes go, things like that. I struggled with that a lot. You were the assistant editor, you know.
Who's the best liar?
Who's the best liar? Working on the word best.
What makes a good liar?
Oh, what makes a good liar is not having a conscience. I talk about sociopaths in the book, and sociopaths for reasons, for bad reasons, whatever those reasons are, don't care if you're mad at them. They don't. They don't care if you get upset. The hardcore sociopath doesn't care if he ends up being dead. Sociopaths are no fun. So being a sociopath and not caring how other people feel makes you the best liar, because then you're really, rather than just doing it because you're in trouble, you're doing it as a way of life. And you're studying other people to figure out what works best and lying to them.
So do you think they're born or created?
Are they born or created? Yes. Probably genetics plays a role in everything. Probably sociopaths are more, by and large, probably more created. If you look at the life of a sociopath, you don't usually find someone with was homeschooled, had both parents, and had understanding friends. Usually, you find something really terrible when you dig into a sociopath.
When you wrote the book, Ron, who was what audience were you really hoping to reach and change?
Yeah, that's one of the questions I never did answer well. I didn't have an audience in mind, so that's causing some marketing challenges. But I really just wanted to write a book that covered the topic, that would help whoever wanted to not be lied to and to know the truth better. I think that the person that might benefit the most from it is 17, 18, 19, 20 years old that hasn't had my life experience, that I've been nice enough to write it down in this book so they can go, oh, that's how that works. Rather than having to learn it the hard way like you and I did. All right, so, unless another hand goes up, thank you so much for coming. This is the end of the formal part of all this. So go back to eating leftovers and hanging out, chatting. If you don't have a book yet and want to buy one, we'll open the table back up. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Last question,
Sure.
I guess.
Sure.
Did you really enjoy writing this book? What was your greatest reward? And don't say the ending. In writing this book.
It wasn't really the ending. It was one of those books that they tell you read in the magazine. If you want to write, you have to. You should only write because you have to write. And that was kind of the most fun, just having to write.